I have with me Mr. Vishal Sikka, CEO of Infosys. Vishal, thank you for joining us on Bloomberg Coin. To begin with, let me talk to you about the guidance, 6.5 to 8.5% in constant currency terms. Will you term that guidance as a conservative guidance or very realistic as of today?
It is based on what we see, the information that we have. Our approach to guidance is to minimize the asymmetry of information that we see and what the world outside sees. So it is based on that principle. One of the financial analysts calls it saying it like you see it. So this is what we do. Of course, we have learned from the last few quarters where our guidance has not been accurate and so forth. So we are adjusting that. The other thing that I see as I look at the year ahead is that our new services and new software are both growing very significantly. And towards the second half of the year, especially the new software, the software subscriptions are not seasonal in the way that the services business is, the Q3 and Q4. So I think that by the time they will have some impact. So we expect that the second half will be better. But we'll see. As the quarters go by, we will obviously update everyone if necessary.
And you've been telling us that you should not look from quarter to quarter growth rate. But I heard in the conference call that you're looking at a strong seasonal quarters coming in the first half of the financial year as compared to second half. Is that what? Are you seeing some ramp ups of some of the orders which you got towards the end of last financial year coming up in the first two quarters?
No. That's not what that statement was intended to mean. What it means is that typically in the services business, the first half is stronger than the second half, and typically in the software area, this is not the case. You continuously build up as time goes by, and in particular, so there is no particular seasonality when it comes to software and software bookings and so forth. So this is what that was referring to. It is not any particular reflection on.
And the headwinds have been taken care of by the margin guidance which you've done of 23 to 25%, right? There's no risk of margins going below 23 in next financial year.
Presently, we see 23 to 25. Last year we had 24 to 25, and this year there is a rupee cross-currency factors that are at play. We have some US investments. We are doing some investment in software, even though despite that investment, we are maintaining our margins in software. And so I am, the fact that we have a very strong focus on operational efficiency and on cost takeouts and things like this. So despite these additional investments and some currency headwinds and so forth, we are only, from instead of 24 to 25, it is 23 to 25.
You spoke about investment in the US, and at the same time you also mentioned about that your capital allocation will look at 70% of the cash flow, which is net of capex.
Yes.
What is the kind of capex we are looking at in this financial year of FY18, and what so that it gets predictability for the investors? If you can give us some idea of what investments you are taking on a local scale or the on-site scale.
You're always making investments, but generally these are not capital investments as much as they used to be in the past. They are more operational OPEX expenses. Yeah. When it comes to facilities and infrastructure, so in the US and here in India, there is always, we are always working on our facilities and buildings and so forth. So we are investing capex in a large solar array. That is something that I am particularly proud of. A little bit north of here in Bangalore, where we have a massive solar array that we are building to give energy back into the grid. And so that is one capital expense. There's always expenses on buildings and computers and equipment and so forth. But it is slow. It is less than it used to be in the past, and so.
Okay. My question to you is that about you appointed a co-chairman in Ravi Venkatesan. What is the need of having two non-executive chairmen in a board? I'm still trying to figure out. I can understand one is executive and one is non-executive, but both are non-executive in nature. What is the role of these two chairmen on the board?
Well, I did not appoint them. You said I did not.
But there must be a rationale of the board.
I was not a part of that decision, and it is the board's decision. And generally the function of the board is the governance, and our function, our role, is the strategy execution, operations of the company. And we, the management and especially the board takes this distinction very seriously. We take this, and yet the board is a very strong advisory group to me and to Praveen, to Ranga, and they provide us counsel. I have had a very close working relationship with Sesh these last roughly 2 years, and Ravi has been on the board since I started. So we have a very hardworking, committed board, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with them. But whether it is one chair or two chairs, what can I say? Vincent van Gogh once made a painting which was called Two Chairs, and actually it's the painting of one chair, but somehow the painting is called Two Chairs. I was just thinking about that earlier today when somebody asked me this question.
Your body language was also not so optimistic like a few quarters. Is the distractions impacting the management and the way and the concentration which is required by the management?
It is very funny, the media focuses on the body language. They focus on the number of gray hairs in my eyebrows, and what can I say?
You may not be getting time to color them. That's the different thing.
I don't believe in coloring them. Life is too short for all that. Obviously there are distractions, and you know what they are, and you guys are all a part of that. And but it's our job to deal with these distractions and continue to do our jobs despite that. And that burden, I take that very seriously.
Finally, the Vision 2020, you spoke about its aspirational nature, but when we started off this Vision 2020, it was an aim for us to achieve, right? For Infosys to achieve that. Are we looking at a calibrated, more realistic Vision 2020 for the entire Infosys going forward? Are you looking at that vision from a point of view, what I can achieve rather than what it's aspirational?
Well, it has always been aspirational. It has always been something audacious to look up to, and of course, with the performance over the last several quarters, it becomes much more difficult to get there, and so on. And such aspirational objectives are routinely done in the industry as a rallying cry, as a way to set a ambitious target to go after. And Praveen was telling me that in our past in Infosys many years ago, we had a similar thing for $10 billion in revenue, which we have now achieved, and so on. The important thing about it is that the 20 billion, which reflects a high revenue growth, 30% margin, which reflects a commitment to increase the margin further through a non-linear growth, through a use of software and use of automation. And most importantly, the revenue per employee going to 80,000. We have just had a 2% improvement in it to $51,250, and we still have to get a long way to go to get to 80,000. But that framing of the strategy in these numerical quantitative terms is the important part of this goal. Whether it happens in 2020 or a few years later is not so significant.
So what is the target for 20 billion? 10 billion in FY17.
Yeah.
20 billion when?
As soon as possible.
Vishal, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.